Welcome, folks, to episode 7,
Yep, we did it. Number 7.
number 7 for All About Printmaking with Phil and Amy. And we're doing something a little different right now because of a history of audio problems from the phone call ins. I'm talking to Amy over the phone, or she's on the phone, and I'm in the studio at my home. Uh,
Yeah.
so, uh, how are you doing, Amy, after working all day?
Oh, well, Mondays are always a challenge, and a Monday after a time change. Woohoo!
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. I was out working earlier in the day in the yard, and there again with the time change, it's like when it gets dark, it's like one of those. In the 1950s, they had that little circle that would go round and round to hypnotize you, and
Yes,
it's what it feels like.
absolutely.
I'm just like in a daze about this time when it gets dark.
Right. It's time to go to bed. It's dark outside.
Yeah. Uh, well, I chose a topic today to kind of accommodate this test that we're doing with the audio, and
Okay.
what I want to talk about is an artist, a man named Jules Heller. Uh,
Okay.
Jules Heller is probably very well known among the printmaking community. In just a moment, I'll tell you why. But I want to read. Jules Heller passed away in 2007, December of 2007, and his obituary was in the an Arizona paper, and I'm not sure if that's just online, but I found it online. And I want to
Mm-hmm.
read a little excerpt from his obituary. He was 88 years old. Let me pull that up here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, move the microphone where I can look at sideways at the computer screen. Jules Heller, 88, the pioneering artist, educator, arts administrator, and author, Dr. Jules Heller, died Friday, December 28th, at his home in Scottsdale. A New York City native, Heller received his undergraduate degree from Arizona State University and graduate degrees from Columbia University and the University of Southern California. He went on to become the founding Dean of Fine Arts at both the Pennsylvania State University and New York University in Toronto, Canada. In 1976, he returned to the Valley of the Sun to serve as Fine Arts Dean at ASU, where he was on the administration through 1985 and on the faculty until 1990. Heller was always committed to teaching and continued offering courses even when he was a dean. And it goes on and talks about his accomplishments. And one of his main accomplishments, he had connections not just in Arizona, but throughout the Spanish speaking world also, in Argentina and
Mm-hmm.
Mexico. And in 1958, he wrote a book, published and wrote this book called Printmaking Today. And it was the first graphic arts studio textbook ever published in the United States.
Wow.
It became a classic and influenced several generations of artists, including myself. I
Mm-hmm.
have it laying here right beside me. Heller also wrote groundbreaking books about papermaking, women artists, and the Mexican printmaker Leopoldo Mendez, with whom he worked with in Mexico City. He, I never knew this until today. I found
Wow.
this obituary today.
Okay.
But I've known about Jules Heller since 1979 when I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
And my, my mentor, Kenneth Kerslake, had this book on the curriculum as the required studio textbook for printmakers.
Mm-hmm.
And the original first edition came out in 1958, and then there was a second edition in 1972, and that's the one I have. I have a copy of that second edition. It has a distinctive print on the front. cover.
I was going to say, what was the difference between the first and the second?
I think the years in between, I'm not sure, but he may have added some stuff between 58 and 73.
Mm,
But I think it's basically the same book. But the main difference, just looking at it, is the cover. You know, it has a different look, a different cover.
hmm Yeah, you want to
Um,
spice it up a little bit, I guess.
yeah, it modernized the cover. You know, the graphic artist that published, the publisher probably was responsible for that.
That's true.
Um, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because this book, and I'm going to go through it here in just a minute. It follows an outline very similar to the outline of our podcast.
Hmm
You recall we decided to cover different forms of printmaking, one in each episode. We went
hmm
relief, intaglio. Uh, I forget the steps we went in, with planographic being the last one, stencil or
Right.
whatever was maybe the last one. I can't remember. But he does the same thing in the book, and
Wow.
and I started thinking about it, and I had to go out and dig it off the shelf out of my studio out back in the backyard. I
Right.
have that building out there, and I've got all my art stuff out there, and so I had to. I looked around, found it, had to blow the dust off of it, and but I started going through it. And I'm just amazed at not only from 1973 until today, which is 2023,
hmm
most of the procedures and techniques and everything is still the same.
The same.
Yeah.
Wow.
Originally it was 1958. So printmaking, the forms of printmaking haven't changed a whole lot as
Right.
far as the basic procedures and techniques and theory. You know.
Right.
Uh,
Hmm.
let me
That's interesting.
let me see if I can find here it is. I've had to turn away if I can pull it off the shelf here, but it's kind of a big book. It's like maybe 8.5, like a typing paper size book, you know.
hmm Right.
And I've got the paperback version, and I went online at Amazon, like I was shopping for it, and you can buy this edition used for like $7.
Wow.
I
Okay.
think in 1979 when I bought it as a textbook, it was like $50, you know.
Well, of course, it was textbook. We had to make that expensive, remember?
Right, right. So that's that's amazing to me that you can still buy it. People are selling it online for 6, 7, 8, $10, you know. But
Yeah, well, it just goes to show you that that's still something that people are interested in doing and want to learn more about. So,
well, it's I have to confess I've gone through it and looked at it. It's not totally up to date as far as some materials, because
right.
in the years that have passed, there's been lots of like chemical uh, improvements in inks
hmm
and the chemicals that's used in some of the processes. The processes are basically the same, but the chemicals and the inks and the oils and the things that are being used in the processes
hmm
are greatly enhanced, and most of them are now earth friendly. You know, there's
Right.
a lot of water based stuff now that's didn't have then.
Right.
So let me get back to my screen here so I can see how far along I'm moving here. Okay, yeah. I'm going to go through right quick. If you go to the index of this thing, it follows along, and the very first one, the very first form that he covers is lithography.
Uh-huh.
And I speculate, I'm not sure, but I speculate because lithography played a bigger role in the world of printmaking in 1958 than it does now.
hmm
It's still available. I mean, you can still do it, but I think in
Right.
1958, in the 60s, and the 70s, lithography was like, you know, it was
The
a more
thing.
the thing to do, you know.
Yeah.
But like the first chapter is lithography, the development of an art form, and each form that he goes into, woodcut, The development of an art form. He uses that statement right after the first chapter title.
Okay.
Uh, the same things we've talked about: lithographic art, lithographs on stone, lithograph on plate, lithographic techniques, and then the chapter 2 is the relief process, and we've talked about the difference in relief and intaglio.
Right.
But the relief process, he goes woodcut, development of an art form, and there again, I think woodcut is probably taken a backseat to linoleum cut as far as
Oh
relief
yeah.
goes.
Mhm.
I see a lot more stuff on Facebook and around concerning linoleum cut than I do
Mhm.
woodcut.
Yeah.
Wood cutting is kind of a purist, it's like the old way to do it, but it's still
Right.
used, it's still done. Uh,
Right. It's still a way of doing it, but it's not the most easiest way
it's
to do it.
probably more difficult, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And finding the right wood to work with.
and then the last chapter in each part, each section here, he goes. It's called Workshop Solutions to Lithographic Processes, Workshop Solutions to Relief Print Processes or Relief Print Problems.
Mhm.
Uh, Part 3 is the intaglio process, and there again, we talked about all these intaglio
Sure did.
differences.
Mhm.
Making an aquatint and other tonal grounds, soft ground and lift ground. We didn't even talk about those. I
No.
forgot about that. Dry
We didn't
point.
even we just talked the very top of those topics, didn't we?
Yeah, just the ones that I remembered.
Surface.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
uh, relief and color printing from intaglio plates.
Mhm.
Apparently, there's a chapter here on actually doing relief type printing on intaglio plates.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
then there are other innovative intaglio techniques. The man was so well versed in all forms of printmaking.
Mhm.
It's like he lived 5 lifetimes doing this.
Oh, well, of course.
And
Sounds like it. Did he ever really say, or have you ever seen anything to what his favorite was? What was his most
mm,
enjoyable, or he didn't really do that?
he may have, but I haven't read enough of his work.
Okay, I was just
Now,
curious.
in becoming interested in doing this episode, I have picked up this book and I'm going through it, and I think he was interested in all of them, all
Mm,
processes, and
right,
his love was just for the printmaking philosophy in
in
general,
general. Hmm. That's
and
very
this
cool.
book, as you go through this book, it's filled with illustrations and copies of prints, photographs of the people doing the processes,
Hmm.
color plates from uh, representing every form that he talks about. It's just a
Wow.
beautiful book. It's like a coffee table book.
Yeah, gotcha. Was was there, from just skimming over, have you noticed any of his work in general?
Yes, yes, he does have images of his work interspersed throughout the book.
Wow.
Um,
It's got to be interesting then, just to see his techniques and the things that he enjoyed doing.
yeah, and the part 4, the final form that he talks about is, of course, the stencil process, which is
Hmm.
screen printing and serigraph stencil methods. Uh,
Right.
Workshop solutions to screen printing problems. And then part 5, the last part of the book, in the very end, he's got a part on workshops, equipment, and materials.
Hmm.
And I haven't read it. I can't remember if I ever have read this section about the print workshop.
Hmm.
And then I did go through and look at the section on presses. He has a beautiful, I mean, it goes into the historical development of presses from different,
Wow.
the lithographic presses, intaglio presses, relief printing presses, presses
Mm.
designed by printmakers,
Yeah.
ink, paper rollers, and brayers, all these materials that are used. And of course, like we said before, everything is probably dated because of the improvement of some, the
Improvement.
inks and stuff.
Right. Right. But
Uh,
he definitely had a love for that, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah, it's just unending. You could just keep going forever. And then once you run out of material in the book to read, in the appendices, he's got a checklist of equipment and supplies, sources for printmaking supplies,
Wow.
films related to prints and printmakers. I took a little time a while ago, and I tried to Google some of these. I went scanned down some of the old films that he listed in the
Hmm.
back here, and
Right.
I never could find the specific film that's listed, but the Google it took me off in a direction where it was just like unending videos about printmaking. And I
Wow.
just kept going. It's like it just goes and goes.
A rabbit hole, huh?
Yeah, and in 1973 we didn't have
Mm,
YouTube, you know,
that's right. You
so
getting your own little rabbit hole. It wasn't didn't have to be all of that. You could actually do it through books and films and other points of interest. So
so
that's pretty neat.
I guess the point I'm making is there's just so much material and
Hmm.
resources to go through and watch and look, historically speaking and studio process speaking. Yeah.
Right, right. That's
But
it.
I'm just amazed at what all this book encompasses, and I've had it on my shelf for all this time, and
Been collecting all that dust and
yeah, and
it's been, jeez.
well, we're making up for it. We're doing this podcast, right?
That's right. That's right. The first thing you did was say, I want to talk about. The second thing you did was you took the dust off the top of it and then you opened it.
Right, right.
So
So
that's pretty neat.
anyway, I'm going to encourage everyone, if you haven't already bought this book or have it, this would be a great addition to your library. Even though
Hmm.
it's old, it has a lot of good stuff in there
Right.
about the different processes.
Yeah,
And
a history. A history.
I'll put uh, I'll put information about Jules Heller in the show notes and the book, information about the book and where you can buy it, etc.
Hmm.
And we'll let everybody just go and get one if they can.
Right.
When all these people hear it from me here and us, but
Absolutely. They're going to run.
they're gonna run by it, and there won't be any available.
Absolutely.
You know.
That's right. There's going to be a run on that book for sure. Absolutely. But it will be interesting to see who else has had some info related to him and to some of his works. So,
Yeah, yeah, right, right. Well, that's the end of our time here
really?
for episode 7. Absolutely,
Wow.
we go so fast, and when I start talking about this stuff, the time really passes. But
It does.
this is all about printmaking with Phil and Amy on the phone.
All righty.
So thanks for calling, Amy, and
All
we'll
right.
say
Well,
good
thank
night.
you.
All
And
right,
good night to everyone.
all right, bye, y'all.
Bye.